Good evening. I am the narrator, and welcome to my parlor. Tonight's story is A Walk in the Park. It surrounded me, this place I had never been, nor seen, nor even heard of. I was taken from my home, but by whom, how, and why? I only knew I was there, and not how to return. The day had been long and arduous. I had retired early, expecting quick and easy sleep. Then the transformation. I felt my body decrease in mass and substance. First went my flesh, then my muscles, then my nerves. Only bone remained, and even it faded to dust. My bedroom transformed likewise. My walls, bookshelf, nightstand dissolved to liquid, then my floor, then my ceiling. I felt my bed do the same beneath. Soon I lay inert on unknown terrain. Bewildered, I rose with surprising ease. I felt light as air. Where am I wondered, and gazed around. The place was black and white, no color whatsoever. I gazed down. I too was black and white. It all looked soft and faded, like aged photographs. Still, my environ seemed strangely normal. A public park. At my feet, grass. Ahead, a jungle gym and linking logs. A slide and swing set. At the front, a wood sign stood on twin posts. It bore an inscription, likely the name and welcome to. In a language, in an alphabet I had never seen before, more confounding than cuneiform. I made no effort to read it. The equipment looked old, rusted, paint chipped and peeled. There stood trees unlike those I knew. Bark black, mottled, branches ending in sharp points, reaching forth like arms. Curious, I thought, stroking my chin. I was not so naive to think it normal. To wit, all was silent. There was no wind, no rustling, no chirping birds. I could not tell time, if time there even existed. How long would I be and what to do? I saw only the park, sprawling without end. Does anyone live here, or am I alone? I asked aloud. My question was soon answered. Ahead, there began a faint sound, at first impossible to identify, then not to. Children's laughter. Strangely, not accompanied by footsteps. Before the playground, a vaporous form appeared. It leapt and danced, there 1 second, gone the next, in and out of sight. Not alone, but one of several. The laughter was theirs. I peered. For a moment, each would solidify, revealing a child. They looked normal, save for blank eyes and a deathly pallor to their skin. They continued dancing without notice. This was for the best. They then dispersed therearound, 1 to the slide, 3 to the swings. I stepped back. By then they were full and solid, still looking deathly, a feature, not a bug. I watched them ride the swings and slide again and again, never stopping, never seeing me, leering all the while. There were 2 boys and 2 girls. Their hair and eyes were solid black, the latter with no pupils, irises, or sclera. The boys wore crew cuts, the girls pigtails. The boys gray-colored suits, the girls pleated skirts and jumpers. They moved quick, staccato, stopping and starting, like drawings on pages being flipped. I then sensed a second presence, distinct from theirs. It seemed to come from beyond the playground. I looked to the horizon. It, too, showed first as a vapor, only larger. What, I wondered, would it be? In seconds it assumed a human form, features filled as if drawn by unseen pencil. It was a woman, hair long and curled, in a plaid skirt and sweater. Her eyes, too, were empty, her face an impish grin. She turned to the playground, inspecting each child. Their eyes met. She delighted in their play, they in her approval. She moved stiffly, like her bones were steel, her joints needing oiling. The group paused and stood. Her clothes vanished, revealing a sinewy form. Vital organs shone beneath its skin. Large breasts, nipples swollen and erect. She raised her arm, and 2 more sprouted beneath the first. Ugh. They lined and stepped forth, crouched and nursed. Their eyes rolled back in their sockets. She smiled, tasseling their hair. In time, they detached and encircled her, chins stained not with milk but black ichor. She parted her legs and crouched. They watched in excitement, I in dread. She grinned and clenched her teeth. 1 boy knelt before her, laid out his arms as if a gift would emerge. Mucus oozed from between her legs. A small bald head followed. They watched keenly as it slipped into his hands. He handed it back and she stood, hoisting it like a trophy. Seconds old, it already shared the blank stare and leer. She passed it to a girl who caressed and passed it to the next. After the rotation, it returned to its mother's arms. She hoisted it again, resting it on her head. Simply put, it saw me. Our eyes met. It pointed to me with a chubby finger, seemingly already with adult awareness. Its lips moved up and down, saying something I couldn't hear. But she could. She looked upward, listening intently. Then looked down at me. The children did the same, one by one. I'd no cover to blow, yet it was blown. The woman turned and strolled away, newborn in her hand. I watched as both gradually vanished in thin air. They turned and leered, delighted. Their intent I could not guess. Before I could move, they surged forth. I spun and ran, but they kept pace, soon dispersing. One to my left, one to my right, one before and one behind me. I felt my balance waffle, fell back into their arms. They hoisted and carried me. Though I heard nothing, I felt distinctly mocked. Suddenly the park vanished, in its place a black void. In a second it returned. I was standing by the swing, the children lined beside me. Now I felt cheered. Again, I fell not forth but backward, landing on the swing. My arms gripped its chains. I began to move, at first slow and slight, but gradually escalating. They watched again in admiration. As I rose, I gazed upon them, they at me. The swing moved on its own, back and forth, high and higher. At the highest I flew forth, expecting to disaster. The children appeared beneath on a dime and caught me. Should I have thanked them? Prone again, they carried me to the foot of the slide, brought me to my feet, and gathered behind me. There I gazed upon the steps, and they at me. Let's get this over with. I took one step, then two, then three, staring into the sky. Space distorted, or perhaps my perception. At first the steps seemed short as expected, but as I climbed, their numbers seemed to grow, as if to keep me from the summit. The sky, as I neared, was dark, overcast, though could not be seen from the ground. Its surface cracked and rippled, as if being pushed, cut, perforated. With each step, the distance seemed to grow by ever-rising sums. I had to stretch my limbs to keep climbing. At last, with great effort, I arrived. I turned and stared down. They watched from the ground. From there I saw but eyes. Distance obscured their forms. Never one to disappoint, I obliged. Speeding downward, building momentum, one stood at the base, arms outstretched. He caught and lifted me to my next locale, the sandbox in which I was dropped. From the outside, I never would have thought I could fit. Yet it was larger than it seemed, as if expanding so I could. They gathered around, and it did the same for them. The sand was not sand as we know it. It was thick, moist like swamp sludge, reeking like sulfur. My eyes closed. My tongue held itself. I felt it seep between my fingers, then looked to see the children doing likewise, without reservations. The muck was dense, hard to remove, gathered, to mold. For me, not for my playmates. I stared in horror and fascination. They were nothing if not skilled, gathering, forming it in shapes, abstract, illogical structures, recalling stalagmites and stalactites. They beamed with pride, their works twisted and turned as if alive. They clearly sought me to take part, to create with them and add to their menagerie. I would not. I rose, the muck rose with, as if to trap me. Luckily, I leapt forth and landed on the grass, as they stared in disappointment. I inched back and raised my arms. They dropped their works, each dissolved back into the muck. They rose, the dirt slid off them without stains, and crept forth. The woman, after her curious absence, appeared as if she'd never left, standing ahead and staring into my eyes. The infant sat on her shoulder, in a gray diaper, held on by a large sharp pin, the kind that could service as a weapon. Its bottom stagged and bloated. Stench wafted. Neither it, she, or its sibling seemed in the least perturbed. The children gathered, flanked me, gripped my limbs. Her shirt vanished, revealing again her torso. She reached forth and gripped my shoulders while they pulled me to my knees. She stood above me. Her breasts heaved, twitching and bulging like the sand grotesques. They extended to my face. The children bared their fingers, revealing pointed black nails. My mouth stretched up to my nose and down to my chin, left and right across my face, yet somehow I felt nothing. She peered upon me. I struggled and called out, but made no sound. Then it ended. The park dissolved as my bedroom had. I floated again in the abyss. My room returned, first in outline, then in full. My pillow, my blanket, my mattress's caress. Relief is hardly an accurate descriptor. What, I demanded to know, was that? Where had I been? How? I'd not the slightest. Only black ichor bubbling on the tip of my tongue.